Hello, and welcome to Threads of Fate. Once again, this is not the Links of Tartarus campaign. That is on Mondays at 7:30 on this channel. This is the Threads of Fate, the mini series that we are doing, a spin-off series to just try to get the audience up to speed with what we know about these characters, everything that happened before the stream with these characters. So this is the second episode. If you missed the first episode, you can check out the VOD on Twitch or YouTube right now. First episode was about Ryujin. This episode is all about Alexios. So, DJ, welcome to the show.
Hi.
So let's start with the basics here. So I walk into a room, I see Alexios. What am I looking at? What do I see?
You are looking at a 6-foot tallish humanoid. He is fairly slender, except for like his shoulders are kind of broad. Slinging a hammer does that. He has like medium length dreads. It's cut on the side, give him a little bit of air. Gets hot. Scale male, mahogany, dark skinned. His eyes are like reddish, the color of like dying coals.
I think that's maybe the coolest thing that you gave to this character are the eyes, but continue.
I always forget something when I'm explaining him.
Goggles?
Yes. He's often wearing the expression as if he got wherever he is by accident.
And then why don't you just mention where your Radiant brand is and what that looks like?
Yes. It is the Radiant brand of Hephaestus. It is on his left shoulder blade. I forgot it's an anvil, fire above it.
Yeah, I believe it's an anvil surrounded by flames. And again, this is one of those things where like I write a specific description and it can be interpreted in 1,000 different ways. I always sort of envisioned it as like an anvil surrounded by almost like how you see olive branches for like an artsy film, like just flames around it like that, like parentheses. But all interpretations are valid. I know I gave Isaac, just for his Radiant brand, I just said the burning sun of Apollo, and he's gone crazy with that. So it can really look like whatever the fuck, as long as it has an anvil and flames. Sammy's happy. No mention of Alexios would be complete without talking about his signature weapons, which Alexios invented. Do you want to talk about the chakrams?
Yeah, he made chakrams. Alexios is a weapons guy. He's often looking for function in his weapon, so he creates the chakram, which can be used up close and he can throw. That's kind of his signature thing at the moment. He's trying to, get awareness on those.
Yeah, so if people don't know what chakrams are, I was first introduced to them through Black Panther, but they are essentially circular blades that can be used hand-to-hand combat or thrown. Right? Am I understanding that right?
Yes. I am just really into weapons, so it's
Yeah. I should also probably mention, so Alexios is an artificer. When I first created Gaia as a world, I was only going off of the information from the original, the Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, Monster Manual. So artificers were not even on my radar when the world was first created. That being said, once I started to expand the world and I learned more about artificers, I also was just like, I was in a weird place of figuring out what I wanted to do with artificers, since so much of it is about invention and technology and that sort of thing, and I really wanted to keep the world feeling very ancient and very of the time in ancient Greece. So we sort of had a compromise that worked out really great when you wanted to play an artificer, where essentially artificing is very, very new to Gaia. In fact, there is only one master artificer in the world, and it is really up to just him and his students that are just beginning to spread artificery across Gaia. So that's super fun. And again, we don't know much about Alexios' upbringing and that sort of thing. Not much has been revealed. But I think he has mentioned several times his master back on the Isle of Ares. Speaking of, just before the stream started, you created Forge. So that was your master had given you the basic blueprints for Steel Defender, which in like D&D lore is literally just something that when artificers choose their subclass at 3rd level, you just get one. But we were like, that's no fun. So I made you sort of work for it. So your master had given you the blueprints for a basic Steel Defender that you had heavily customized and made your own. So talk a bit about why you chose this form for Forge, and there's the obvious meaning behind the name, but any reason that you called it Forge, anything like that.
Forge is, like you said, my Steel Defender. He is small, dragonoid, made of metal. I chose that because, well, my father Hephaestus kind of had a hand in making the original chromatic dragons, which came from Tiamat. And in response to that, there were the good pantheon of dragons.
Yes, the metallic dragons.
Yeah. I kind of picked that because I felt Alexios would kind of want to at least attempt to correct his father's mistake as like not a way for, I guess, a way for atonement. Like,
sure,
he wants Forge to be able to kill dragons in order to somewhat erase what happened with his own father. Forge, the name came from, well, at first I felt like he was going to be able to forge with me, which is something I might.
It's pretty advanced, but maybe we'll get there.
Yeah, like maybe a tail holding something, but
yeah. Listen, level 20.
But he also, my desire to forge him into something more, I guess.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I want him to be like a dragon hunter.
Hell yeah, man. And really, like it is interesting because obviously the constraint of the class is you need to make this metal companion, and it just sort of works with the lore that we'd already created, that you felt this strong connection with metallic dragons and this strong hatred for chromatic dragons. And so I personally love the idea, and I probably never would have come up with the idea. But I love the idea of making a metallic dragonoid in order to fight chromatic dragons. I love that, since that is literally the point of metallic dragons in the lore, is to fight chromatic dragons. Going off of this a bit, because I think it's related, let's talk a bit about your relationship with Hephaestus, because we have, obviously, there's lots of gods involved in this party. We have a cleric of a god, we have a warlock of a god, yada yada. You don't get any of your power from Hephaestus besides your racial abilities. Talk to me about the relationship, or the lack thereof, between you and your father, and what Alexios wants, like what Alexios' goal is in terms of his relationship with Hephaestus. At the moment, I mean, it's hard to say.
The relationship is, I would say, basically non-existent. There's certainly a void there. He's only kind of spoken to his father once or twice. I guess if you count the vision, that would be
Sure.
twice. What was the other part of the question? What does he want?
If Alexios is looking ahead to the future and thinking about the relationship he wants with his father, what does he envision? What's the end goal?
Ooh. Really? Alexios, one wants to be seen by his father. Alexios has that complex. He wants to be seen and noticed and recognized for what he is by everyone.
Sure.
But there's also this, like, feeling of him wanting his father to be more active on his plane.
Sure.
Like, in his opinion, withdrawing from, I guess, the world isn't something really that, well, inventors do it, but it's not something that he likes personally.
Sure. Yeah.
You create things for people.
Yeah. Yeah, and for context for the audience, information that Alexios knows about Hephaestus and most religious people would know in this world is that he spends most of his time on the plane of fire. That is where his, like, domain is as the god of fire. He does spend time on Gaia itself, but as of yet, he has not seemed particularly interested in forging a close relationship with you. But we'll see. Speaking of your life so far, not much, and correct me if I'm wrong, but not much has been revealed about Alexios' backstory, at least to the party. We know where he's from. He's from the Isle of Ares, which is essentially a large island, almost like a subcontinent, on the eastern edge of the continent. But am I wrong? Is that basically everything we know about who Alexios is?
Basically, yeah.
Well, that's fun. I mean, that just means you and I know way more than that, which means that there's way more to be revealed slowly throughout this campaign, which I'm very excited about. And the first real glimpse we got of that was the memory that Mnemosyne showed you at the beginning of the siege on Delphi. So this was right before the stream started, and Mnemosyne sent out a psychic blast to start the fight that sent everyone back in their minds to some of their most traumatic memories. The party in-game does not know what you saw, but the players do, since I said it out loud. So let's let the audience know a bit about what it was that you experienced in that memory.
At any point, correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
But
yours was, it was also like, a lot of the memories were really intense. Yours was a bit more subtle.
Right.
Yeah.
It was the Ram Stadium, right? Which
sure.
is,
I don't remember what it's called, but yeah, for sure.
or a Coliseum. It's a Coliseum.
A gladiatorial arena. Yeah.
Yes. Gladiators, where I'm from, fight there. It was a scene where they don't know. My brother, my foster brother, is fighting, and I'm watching him just tear through enemies, and I take a look at my mother, and she is happy and crying, but I feel an air of disappointment from her because demigods a lot is expected from them, and by a certain age, if you're not showered in glory, you're looked at in a certain type of light, especially I would think on the Isle of Ares, where it's about valor and glory. So, my mother, I assume, realizing that I don't have this, began to feel sorry for me, and in turn made me feel sorry for myself.
Yeah.
I believe that was the point where I realized I couldn't be home anymore.
Yeah, I think at the very least, it was a moment where you realized that you could never be the kind of hero that your mother wanted you to be. That you would have to follow your own path. You would have to be a hero the way you know you can, and not what she would desire of you, which is tough. It's a tough realization, but it's very internal, which is a bit different from some of the other memories that we got from the other party members. But I'm excited to dive more into Alexios' story and Alexios' circle of people. So I think the party will have a lot of fun with that, and I think you will too. Last thing, let's talk a bit about how Alexios views his role in the group. So at least from my memory, from the very first session when you were in Looms, waking up that morning, it seemed like Alexios knew immediately what role he wanted to play in this group. I think the very first roleplay moment that happened in the game was you asking to see Ryujin's trident.
Yeah. Well, everybody's weapons, really. If I find a nice weapon, I have to. It's but that's a hard question, because I know who he wants to be versus who he feels like he needs to be right now.
Sure, go into it.
Who he wants to be, like, long term is like just the quartermaster. Like, I want to be basically the person behind everyone's success.
Which is very Hephaestus of you, might I add.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just that person who, like, in the history books, oh, did you hear about the Hands of Fate? Did you hear about their weapons? Like, and who he feels like he needs to be at the time, or at this time, is more like, I guess, the opposite of everybody else. Like, the voice of reason, but at the same time, Alexios would hate to be like the moral compass of any group.
Sure.
But I guess emotionally, like, kind of like the odd man out also.
It's interesting, like I sort of view Alexios as the man behind the curtain, like rarely the one to take the spotlight, but always the one to boost your friends up, you know? It's interesting because, like, I think in D&D, very few people want to take on that role. Some people mechanically take on, like, the support role, but everybody wants to be the one to have the final killing blow, or the one to make that important decision, all kind of stuff. And I feel like Alexios is very comfortable being the right-hand man.
Right. Everybody's right.
Exactly, yeah.
Like,
I love that, which again, like, and this was not intentional. I did not talk to you guys about this, but it's a very Hephaestus way to do things. You know, Hephaestus gets along with everyone in the Pantheon. He makes weapons for everyone in the Pantheon, and that's his entire strategy of how to maintain his position, is to not piss anyone off, just be Switzerland, be the friend to everyone, be the support to everyone, and not cause problems with anyone, because that's just way too much to deal with, and there's far more important things to do. There's far more inventions to make, far more battles to fight. So again, it's like, I did not tell you to make your character like Hephaestus, but here you are, you know. And I think that's going to be really interesting to see, especially as the dynamic grows. Yeah.
Part of it is like being able to step back and look at everybody's character, like like it's great.
Yeah. And also, since we have now had a few episodes of the stream, I can ask you something about the stream. Talk to me a bit, and this will be the last thing, I promise. Talk to me a bit about how Alexios is feeling about that vision he had. So to remind the audience, first of all, if you haven't seen the episode, Alexios was forging and sort of transcended time and space for a bit, and dreamt of witnessing himself forge a weapon while dragons attacked. Enormous, ancient, chromatic dragons that he could not fight alone, and instead had to essentially help other versions of himself craft this weapon that was worthy of killing these dragons, and came out of it with a feat from Hephaestus, the ability to essentially momentarily transfer your proficiency with a specific tool set to someone else, but in a very intense vision. So talk a bit about that.
Well, I myself, I feel horrible about it because you just, like, I know my backstory. And when you whip that out on me, like, everything was all panic, and I did everything I wasn't supposed to do, I feel like, in retrospect.
Listen, I loved that sequence. I thought it went great. I love making you guys squirm. That's part of my job.
I write, like, it's, I watch shows, everything, nothing really got me like that. I was like, wait. And then when it was over, I was like, oh, he got me.
That's good. I love that. So how does Alexios feel about it?
Alexios as a character, I mean,
it's hard to say. Could be hard to say.
Yeah, that's hard because it's more so confirming because he never wanted to, like, go out and adventure, so to say, in the first place.
Right.
So it's more like confirming what he felt like he knew, like, maybe I shouldn't be here. Which is why, like, explains the silver weapons just off the jump. I didn't think about anything else. I'm gonna go make weapons because that's
what you do.
Thing I can do.
Yeah.
It made me also nervous because the hands are becoming a family, and having to actually think about the fact that if I can't do this alone, I'm going to be putting them in danger. If the dragons are a fight, the dragons are technically my fight. It's an inherited thing, and what if we lose people? Like, pre-stream, we've already lost Honora.
It's true.
That
was to a minotaur.
Yeah.
Wasn't to an ancient dragon.
Right.
Yeah.
And just Adagio's lost Phaeton, and that's our fault. Well, my fault to some extent. Definitely, because I was supposed to guard him. And it's, like, he has the feeling like, once again, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not good at these kind of things. I know what I'm good at, and everything and everybody in circumstance, fate, is pushing me into territories that I'd rather not be.
You are.
But I'm not gonna leave my family.
You are like the protagonist from every action movie ever, where you're like, nah, I retired. I don't do this shit anymore. One last job. Like, great. That's great. I love that. Well, listen, man. Thanks for joining me. Is there anything you feel like we haven't touched on of Alexios that we already know that's super important?
There's always like this constant, like, often negative narrative going on in his head, but pertaining his friends. Like, sometimes Ryujin is like the Three Stooges to him, but like he loves, like, Ryujin is like his favorite person on Earth.
Aw, that's sweet. He's like your friendly little idiot.
Right. Like, if
Listen.
I had to get rid of the rest of you, I would keep him, because at least I know what he's thinking.
Love it. I'm sure he'll love to see this when this airs.
I know, love Gavin.
All right, man. Well, thank you for joining me. Everyone watching, thank you guys for joining us. As always, Links of Tartarus every Monday, 7:30 Eastern. And you can watch the final 3 episodes of Threads of Fate on Thursdays at 7:30. They should all be like half hour or less, so super bite-sized, super good. And then you could always check out these videos, the VOD, on Twitch immediately after we're done, or on YouTube 2 days after they air on Twitch. So thank you for joining us. DJ, always a pleasure.